There was 2 or 3 of those in the front and a couple on the sides. And on those, they had steel doors, and they wouldn't just open slowly. They would snap open and snap close as they needed them. So when our machine gunners, like when we hit the beach, we got into a situation. The first situation that we had was that we got into shore then. We went up, we got into shore, and as we got off the barge on the end, we went into about 2 or 3 feet of water, went up onto the beach, probably 10 or 12 yards, and as we were told that when we go off of this barge and onto the beach, it's right and left. First one goes to the right, the next one goes to the left as they get off of the barge, so that if one of us got hit and stalled, then the other ones could get off that barge. If you didn't make a quick turn and you got hit, it wouldn't make any difference because these other ones would get around you in the back. So there we sit as we get off, and sure enough, we get off the barge and we went in, like I say, 10, 12 yards. And as we made our turn to the right, all of a sudden, bango, we hit a landmine. It was a small landmine, anti-personnel, I guess, because if it had been a teller mine, which is those big German mines for they're for tanks and equipment like that, it would have turned us over, I'm sure. But it didn't turn us over, but it blew one of my front wheel off. So we were, well, you might say, dead in the water. So our guns still operated and that, so we started firing at this one bunker that was just ahead of it. It was up on the beach, probably 150, 200 yards from where we were. And sure enough, right beside us, there was a tank there that had come just before we did, and they'd got him too, and he was sitting there burning. And that helped us a little bit because it protected us a little bit from them, that they couldn't get at us as quick as they wanted to. Well, as we're firing at this bunker up there and trying to get them to keep those doors and windows closed, somebody came up behind the half track, climbed up on the back, and tapped me on the head and shoulders. He was tapping me, and I turned up like this to look at it, because on the half track you're sitting down into a bench like, and he started talking. And I went like this because I'm deaf. There's not, and on the sides, this reminds me, on the sides, when you're down in this turret, you're like in a drum. And over here on each side of you, you've got 2 50 caliber machine guns on each side, and then you're down in, and as soon as you hit the triggers, they had you could fire all 4 guns at once, or you could fire 1 gun or 2 guns of that. It depended. You could pull on the solenoids, and if you shut the juice off to them, you could fire any way you wanted to, like to conserve ammunition or something. And this is what happened. This guy, I pulled myself up and I says, "What do you want?" And I look and I see he's a captain, and I says, "What what do you want?" So he bent over and he started hollering at me because I couldn't hear him because I was deaf. So anyhow, he said, "Well, my men are up by that pillbox up there, and they're pinned down. The minute they get up to move or anything, there's krauts in there. I'm losing people." So he says, "Can you help?" He says, "Well, we're getting a little bit low on ammunition, but you tell them that give us the word when they want to move, and we'll fire at that bunker. And as soon as we start firing, they should get up and run just as fast as they can. Get up, move as fast as they, because when we quit firing, we're out of ammunition. We can't help them anymore." So he said, "Okay." So anyhow, this happens. We start firing at it, and pretty soon, it wasn't very long, but we saw smoke and fire coming out of these windows. So we knew that these Rangers, I believe they were, and they got up to that point, and they'd got some TNT or something in there to blow the place up. And so that was it. Now we're out of ammunition. We run out of ammunition. Some of the guys on some of my ammunition guys went around to some of these tanks and that were knocked out, and they were getting ammunition out of them that they still had ammunition, and they probably picked up maybe 200 or 300 rounds, and so we used that up, and then we were on our own because we couldn't run anymore. So then we got our weapons. This was funny because we all had M1 rifles to work with, and except the gunner. The gunner had a Thompson submachine gun. That's mine. So I found out one thing. A Thompson submachine gun is one heck of a gun for Chicago, or was for Chicago. But in combat, no, it's no good. It's an ammunition eater. Every time you pull that trigger, it seemed like you're out of ammunition, and it was just touch and go there for some time, and finally, after I used about 3 clips on that gun, I finally just threw it down in the sand and picked up a rifle, because there were a lot of rifles laying around between the legs and arms and what else were on the beach. So I got a rifle, and I picked it up, and I pulled it to check if it was loaded, and it was loaded. So I fired a couple of rounds to make sure that it fired, and so then I picked up a couple of bandoliers and hung them around my neck, and I was ready to fight. So I moved up then, and we were on the beach for 2 or 3 days, and all the time we were there, we were getting fired upon all the time. And I think it was the second night that I was there. We didn't sleep, of course, but I think the second night on the beach, there was something that landed by me. It was right shortly after dark. It was a thud, and I couldn't imagine what it was. But when I woke up, I didn't wake up. I was asleep all night. When I got up in the morning and the sun started coming up, I looked over, and within hand's reach, I'd say 3 or 4 feet, there was an 88 shell, German 88 shell. It's probably about that long and about that big around. Now, it was a dud. If that had exploded, I would not be here talking to you today, because it would have got me for sure. And that was that. Now, we get off of the beach, like I say, after about 3 or 4 days, and we get into the orchards. Right off of the beach, there's these big orchards. And where we were, there were orchards all over. And right where we were, there were plum orchards. After we got on the beach and into the orchards, in through the orchards, there were all kinds of these big towed planes that, what do they call those? Well, they were towed by gliders. There was a lot of gliders that had landed in these, and I heard later that it was a mess. I heard later that they had 85% casualties on those gliders, just in landing. So they didn't work out too good at all. You'd see a glider there, and it was all busted up and full of bodies. And it just didn't work, because they landed, they had the area pinned out where they were supposed to land, but it just happened to be an orchard, and they couldn't get in. They just got in, and as soon as they got close enough to the ground, the trees just took them in. And that was a sight to see. It was terrible. I lost 2 or 3 men on the beach. I lost 2 or 3 guys in there that never left the beach. And the second day, right after, as soon as we got the first day in the orchards, I said that day then, I said, God, this has been a short life, but I know that this is my last day on earth. I know I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I can't. I know that I'm going to die today, because nobody can live under these circumstances, because they were still blowing the heck out of us, and it was hell on earth. Is what it was. So we get in a little bit further, and then we start moving in. We start trying to get away from the beach and getting into and then we could see where the paratroopers had dropped inland probably a mile or 2, and they were doing okay. They were saving us a lot. And then between the parachute jumpers and us, we get in there, and finally the Germans started moving out a little bit. They were given us a little. After about a week, really, that was the first day I think that we weren't fired on more than usual, but we lost an awful lot of troops on that beach. I've heard all kinds of stories about that, and I've read all kinds of documents about an Omaha beach, and I've heard 25 to 100,000 of the American boys died on the beach, and I can believe that too. It was really a mess.